Hey, I'm Caro and welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be sharing a Cuban staple, which is Cuban black beans. There probably isn't a side dish that goes better with any Cuban meal than some rice and black beans. There also wasn't a week I can remember growing up that my grandma didn't have black beans on the rotation. So today I'm going to share with you what I think are the perfect black beans. If you'd like to learn how to make them, stick around. Alright, so let's get started. First thing we're going to do is rinse the beans. Just going to go ahead and get any of the dust or debris that was in the package off of them. I'm not sure how much this cleans them, but my grandma used to do it, so I just kind of do the same thing. So now we're going to go ahead and pressure cook the beans. We're going to add the clean beans into the pressure cooker. Then I'll add 1 whole carton of beef broth. I'm also going to add water until the measurement in the pressure cooker reaches 8 cups. Then I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of olive oil. And I'm going to take half of the green pepper and add that in as well here. Once those are in, we can close up the pressure cooker and set it to cook. If I could ever figure out my pressure cooker. Every time I use it, I have to fight with it to get this lid on. Finally. Okay, so now we can set the beans to cook. We'll set it to cook on high for 25 minutes and we'll work on the sofrito in the meantime. We'll start the sofrito by chopping up our onions. This recipe calls for 1 medium onion, but I only had 2 small ones, so that's why you'll see me chopping 2 here. I start by chopping off the ends and then cutting them in half. From there, I'll go ahead and peel them and give them a dice. I like to do a small dice because once we cook them in the sofrito and then they cook again once we're thickening the beans, they pretty much disappear into the beans and you don't notice that they're there. It's really a personal preference, but I don't really like seeing the ingredients in my beans at the end. And that's going to explain to you why I chop the peppers in a specific way in the next steps. The next ingredient is the garlic. I'm going to crush it with the back of my knife, and that's going to go ahead and release the peel really easily. From there, I'm going to give it a really good chop because I don't want to have any large pieces of garlic running through the beans. A little quick trick that I like to use when I'm making sofrito or anything that has a lot of peeling and chopping, I'll just keep a small empty bowl next to me in the sink, and all those peels and the little pieces to discard I'll just toss in there. Makes the cleanup at the end really easy. Also, there's no smell that reminds me more of my grandma than the smell of garlic and onions on your hands. And now that I cook so much for my family, I totally get it.
Do you know what the secret ingredient is to this channel? You guys hitting like and subscribe. And thanks, you guys are the best.
Okay, next we're going to cut up the rest of the green pepper that we had. You'll see that I'm going to be chopping it in really large pieces. Remember when I told you I was doing this for a reason? Well, I have 2 kids and they don't love seeing giant pieces of pepper in their food. And I'm not quite a big fan of it, so I leave the pepper chopped up really roughly, big pieces. So at the end, I can just kind of pick them out. If you don't mind them in the beans, you can just skip this step and chop them just like the onions and add them to the sofrito like that. Alright. Now we cook the sofrito. So in a frying pan on medium heat, I have the 1 teaspoon of olive oil in there. I'm going to add just the onions and the green peppers, and I'm going to cook those down a little bit until the onions are translucent. To this, I add in half a teaspoon of dried cumin and 1/4 teaspoon of dried oregano. I like adding it here instead of to the pressure cooker while the beans soften because I notice when I've made it like that in the past, I find that they become a little bit too dominant in the beans and a bit overpowering. So I add them to the sofrito and find that their flavor is a lot more mild and it still lets the beans shine through. Once the onions and the peppers are softened, I add in the garlic and I cook it for like 2 to 3 minutes. I do make sure to keep it stirring constantly so the garlic doesn't burn. From here, I'll take it and just set it aside for a moment until the beans are done cooking in the pressure cooker. Alright, so the beans are done, and I'm going to start first by releasing the pressure manually, very carefully because I can get burned here with the steam, but I'm going to go ahead and do that so we can open the pressure cooker a little quicker. Once the pressure is released, we can open it and we can go ahead and finish up the beans. We're going to add in the sofrito now and the olives. At this point, the beans are cooked and softened, but the broth is still very liquidy, like a soup. So from here, we're going to go ahead and set the pressure cooker to the brown setting, which is going to let it simmer, and it's going to reduce and thicken the beans. I usually test the thickness on the back of a big spoon. If it coats the back of the spoon completely and you can run your finger across it and it leaves a clean path, I call them done there. Once they're thick enough, I turn off the heat and I add in the 2 teaspoons of vinegar. My beans had enough salt at this point, but this is where you can taste for salt and add if needed. Okay, the beans are done. I'm just gonna have them here with some rice that I had, but I also love eating them just by themselves and dipping some Cuban bread in them. That was one of my favorite ways to eat them as a kid. Let's try it. Okay, aside from them being piping hot, they are delicious, flavorful, salty, a little tangy. That's divine.